What is up, everybody? This is Chase, and welcome back to the Wellness Center podcast, where we are destigmatizing mental health one episode at a time. Everyone, I am so grateful that you are tuning in again to listen to another amazing story of resilience, to learn some skills, to learn some value, to love another human being with me, and to also give you some skills that you can take to help you cope this weekend. Uh, Guys, I'm really, really excited for my guest today. This dude is a legend in this world, and he is doing so much good. He has already done so much good. He's continuing to do so much good. I am just truly grateful to have him on my show, guys. So I'm super, super excited for him. Even in just the brief conversations we've had, he's been super fun, super bubbly, super energetic, and I'm just really excited for him to bring that on today. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, guys, before I go into my epic introduction for this wonderful man, I do want to ask, I have two massive favors of you. The first, if you're not a part of the Wellness Center tribe, please smash that subscribe button. Please hit that follow button. Please, please, please follow this show. We release episodes weekly. We're all about destigmatizing mental health, giving you skills that you can use in your daily life, and giving you some hope so that you guys can just continue to thrive and be the resilient, unique human beings that you are. So, yeah, please make sure to like and subscribe. Guys, and my next big invite for you is you're listening to this episode today, as you're listening to this amazing man share his amazing story. I invite you to be thinking of someone in your life that you feel could benefit from what lessons and the story that this guest is going to teach you today. And I invite you to share it with them. Not only is that going to help grow the Wellness Center tribe, which I would be truly appreciative for, it's also going to let those people know that you are thinking about them, that you love them, and that you care about them. So I'm just trying to help you connect as well. So, guys, without further ado, I want to bring on my great guest. I'm really excited for him. So, guys, my guest, by way of just a simple introduction, he's the founder of a boutique career coaching practice trusted by top Silicon Valley executives. He's a former Fiverr resume reviewer turned tech career coach and job search expert. He is featured in leading publications like Forbes, CNN, and the Harvard Business Review. He has mental health advocate and professional speaker skills on branding and workplace wellness. He is a Disneyland Magic Key holder and a Starbucks enthusiast and had been since the time he was in sixth grade. And one of my most favorite things is that he's a doctor, and his dissertation was on mental health destigmatization through storytelling. So you know we're in for a great one, guys. So without further ado, I have the one and the only Dr. Kyle Elliott on the show. Kyle, how are you doing today?
Hear the legends old and new. Wisdom flow like rivers true. Share your heart, the stories thrive. In this cast we're all alive. Oh.
Yes, thank you for having me. I am doing so well. I'm excited for us to be having this conversation on such an important topic that impacts so many people. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Dude, it's going to be so much fun. I don't know about you, but I can already feel the energy and it's really, really high.
Mhm,
And you're right, dude. Mental health is such an important topic. I don't think people realize that I don't think there's a person that doesn't have some sort of issue with mental health, especially in
mhm.
this time.
Exactly. Whether you have a formalized diagnosed mental health condition or you're just human, all of us have mental health. It impacts all of us. So that's why I think it's so important we're discussing this topic and destigmatizing it. As you said, my dissertation was literally on this topic. So how do we use storytelling to destigmatize mental health and talk more about our experiences and our lives?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people associate and have shame involved with mental health as well. And shame thrives in the darkness. So why
Mhm,
not talk about things and bring it to the light? I think one of the most powerful moments for me in my life was when I finally opened up about my own suicidal
mhm,
ideation. And it was just received with like, dude, me too. And it
mhm,
was like one of the most humanizing experiences I think I've ever had is just that willingness for people to receive other people despite what they feel
mhm.
might become of like them being vulnerable.
It's powerful to recognize you're not alone. With my own research, I found that every time people shared when they recognized they weren't alone, when they were met with solace, when they were met with, oh, this is someone else who's been here, it was very powerful. And then the reverse, when people said, hey, I don't want you sharing that, it shut people down. So how you respond to other people, how people respond to you can have an impact on how your storytelling journey, how your mental health journey happens moving forward.
That's so cool, dude. So I'm curious to know you a little bit better, Kyle.
Mhm.
Can you just tell me, like, and the listeners know a little bit about who you are, some of your passions, your hobbies, just so we can get to know you kind of more on like the surface level before we get into the deep stuff?
Yeah, it was fun hearing that introduction that you provided. Career-wise, I started on Fiverr, literally writing resume reviews for people, writing the
Mhm.
about section for people on LinkedIn. I also love coffee. So when I'm not working, you'll typically find me at Starbucks or Disneyland. I have an annual pass, so my partner and I go there often. Sometimes I'll be at Disneyland with Starbucks.
Mhm.
I'm also a son, so I'm very close with my parents. I feel fortunate to be close with them. Just visited them this past weekend and my grandma. We went to a light show, Sensorio. My parents live in Pastoral Wolves wine country, so we had fun there. I love writing as well, often about careers or mental health or how your mental health shows up in your career.
Mhm.
Lately, my hobby this year has been Pilates. So that's been a big
Okay.
way I've been taking care of myself. I started Pilates, and my hobby before that was my doctorate. So 4 or 5 years ago, I wanted a hobby and I was in a group coaching program getting coached. And I
Mhm.
said, oh, I want to do something new. I'm kind of bored. I need a hobby. And I ended up by the end of that group coaching session saying, I'm going to go back to school and getting a doctorate. So it's quite a long hobby that involved a lot of writing and reading and learning. So I'm thankful now my current hobby of Pilates is a lot less reading, writing, learning, and more physical. And it's been a lot of fun.
That's really cool, man. So I'm curious, what did you actually get your doctorate degree in?
Yes, it's in educational practice and leadership. So, education, and the
Okay.
focus is higher ed. So, how do adults learn? How do they receive information and process it? A lot of the people in the program were education administrators, K through 12 and stuff. I was only career coach, so it was fun being in a different environment
Yeah.
and applying some of it to my own business, my work with people in their careers. So, it was a really, really fun and rewarding
Yeah,
experience.
I can imagine. And I'm curious about how your dissertation was received in that specific doctorate degree.
They were super open, super welcoming. I focused on college students and their
Okay.
experiences around mental health because that's when my own mental health conditions, I learned about them. I had migraines for about 5 years that went undiagnosed. And then these were chronic migraines. I was bedbound often. I missed 20 days of school one year. They're
Wow.
really severe. And then finally, a doctor at my college career, or not college career center, my college health center recommended, hey, maybe you should go to a psychiatrist. And within minutes of seeing her, she said, hey, this is anxiety, OCD. So really my own experiences around mental health and in college really informed me. So I was like, well, maybe I should write about this for this dissertation. So it was really interesting blending my love of mental health with my college experience. And then, hey,
Yeah.
sharing my own story was really helpful. So I was able to blend these different things
Yeah.
together. And my focus was more qualitative. So it wasn't data driven, but instead I said, hey, there's no research on people's stories, their experiences through college. So I was able to research how people navigated college, and it was received so well. The professors loved it. It was really a new body of research. So it was really fun to explore.
That's cool. Are you still exploring that research? Is that still an untapped area?
It's still untapped. There's not a lot of work being done around it. I ended up doing some work with the nonprofit around it, and they ended up sunsetting. Now I'm then and now I'm a tech career coach. So
Mhm.
more it's showing up in my work individually with tech executives as they explore their own mental health. I
Cool.
always make clear I'm not a therapist, but through
Mhm.
my work with tech executives, often their own traumas coming up, their own mental health conditions come up, and then how they cope and navigate living with mental health conditions, or just as I said, all of us have mental health, how they navigate that in the workplace and their careers and their lives.
That's so cool, dude. That's so cool. I'm so honored that you're on my show, man. And I know that to get to where you're at in life, right, to have this level of resilience and success and you're thriving and all these things, I know there comes a lot of baggage with that, right? There's a story.
Mhm.
So, Kyle, I want to go right into my first question, bro. I want you to take me back. I want you to take us all back to a young Kyle Elliott. When did you start actually struggling with your mental health?
Reflecting back, I didn't realize this, but it was young,
Yeah.
probably elementary school
Okay.
is when I started. My parents, as we talk about it, it was little quirks often that now we are like, oh, that was probably OCD, some
Mhm.
anxiety. I would walk in the living room and we'd be like, oh, the living room table. I would walk 5 times around it one way and then the other way, kind of going through the living room. Or there was a certain brick I had to touch. We were just talking with my grandma recently. Kyle collected a lot of chapsticks, like dozens and dozens. I would carrying them around in a bag.
Okay.
The light switches, I would have to touch them to make sure they were off. So it was a lot of OCD tendencies,
Mhm.
anxiety tendencies to help me cope with these feelings of lack of control or stress. I was bullied a lot
Mhm.
in elementary school and middle school. So I found these things I could obsess over, these things I could control to help me manage that anxiety
Yeah.
that happened. So really in elementary school and middle school is when it first started manifesting as I looked back. A
Mhm.
lot of it, my parents at the time just thought, oh, these are just quirks. These are interesting and unique things that Kyle had at the
Mhm.
time. And looking back, it was like, well, maybe these are signs that actually there was something going on here. And
Yeah, that
then
makes
over
sense.
time, later it started manifesting in headaches, tension headaches, migraines, things that started becoming more physical
Mhm.
in nature.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so you said you were bullied a lot. Were you bullied at home? Were you bullied at school? Where was that bullying happening?
At school, it was this interesting kind of difference. At school, more on the playground, people would call me names, the F word and stuff. And then at
Hmm.
home, it was a super supportive, loving environment. I often share that I won like the parent lottery. I have these amazing, supportive parents that
Yeah.
are as close to perfect as you can get. And then at school is really challenging with classmates. And I would do really well in the academic environment, get straight A's, things would go great. And
Hmm.
then it was difficult making friends. I really struggled with that. So I think it was
Yeah.
this trauma that was really challenging. I'd like go for recess and lunch. It'd be challenging making friends, or
Yeah.
people were mean. And do really well in the classroom and at home. And it was this going back and forth between this difficult, traumatic environment, and then feeling really safe in the classroom and at home was difficult for a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old me to process and say, how
Yeah.
do I deal with this? So it just manifested in headaches and stomach aches. I had a lot of
Mm.
stomach aches and stuff.
Gotcha.
It was just difficult for me to have my body say, this isn't what a child should deal with. So I
Right.
just don't know what to do with this. Let me get a headache. Or that was my way for my body to deal with it.
Tell you it's time to slow down. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm interested on your perspective with this question. Do you feel like with your parents being the lottery parents, the perfect parents,
Mhm.
that there was a level of comparison you had with them where maybe you felt like you weren't gonna be as good as they were or anything along those lines where there was that comparison?
No, I think more in regard to lottery parents, just their parenting style was very good and they
Oh,
felt very
okay.
great. Not that they were perfect, but more
Right.
just in their way of being supportive and helpful. I felt
Okay.
really thankful to be able to come home and have parents that were supportive and
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so okay, you were bullied a lot in elementary. Were you bullied in junior high at all?
Yeah, junior high, high school, that continued as well for most of high school. So it was this pervasive,
Wow.
consistent bullying.
Were they the same kids that kind of
It was a
followed
small
you?
town, so yeah, it was a lot of similar. And we had 5 or 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, one high school. So some that kind of followed and continued. Some of it was different, but a lot of it was stuff around my sexual orientation or perceived sexual orientation.
Yeah.
And then some of it was just general bullying
Hmm.
that kids do as well.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. But no, thank you for being willing to share that. Did you ever? Oh, the kind of the question that's coming to mind is like, was there any ever pushback you tried to do with these bullies to get them to stop, or was it just something that you just like you just took and handled?
Yeah, there was some pushback. I think that didn't help. I found that didn't help. It stopped around probably junior and senior year of high school when I stopped just responding or caring.
Oh,
I
okay.
found that really helped. Like when I stopped having a reaction as much and getting
Yeah.
visibly upset, that's when it stopped more, I noticed. I just didn't care as much. I really checked out.
Hmm.
That's when I also started getting the migraines as well, when I started checking out. But
Hmm.
that's when they stopped responding as much as
Yeah.
well. And if I could go back, I would have told myself it's going to get better, things are going to get better, this is temporary. When you're in that moment, when you feel trapped, you have to go to high school, you have to go to middle school, you just have to be in school.
Hmm.
It feels like it's never going to end.
Right. Were you ever suicidal around that time in your life?
Not that I recall. I
Oh,
feel very
good.
fortunate that that's something. I haven't had suicidal ideation, that I didn't self-harm, anything like that. I feel fortunate around
That's,
that.
yeah, that's really good. Okay, so you get to this point in high school, and that's when you start having the migraines. And you say you checked out. What was kind of, was there like a story or a belief about yourself that allowed you to check out?
Yes, I was a workaholic. That's when I really started becoming a workaholic. Probably 16 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 16. I got a job at Denny's, our local Denny's, and I worked full time.
Hmm.
I was a server there. Everyone else was double, triple my age, the servers, but I started working full time there. And I found, hey, I'm really good at this. I can focus on work, be really good at this, and here's where I can get my value. So instead of focusing on having friends at school, that kind of stuff, I'm more
Hmm.
focused on work. I did have some friends, a few of them, but really my focus was on work, and that's where I got a lot of my value and a lot of my identity. I was still academically doing well, but
Hmm.
the friendship piece wasn't my focus. I was able to kind of focus on here's where I got a lot of my value. And
Hmm.
the last, or kind of the following decade was undoing that. Here's where my value comes from my work. But that was
Yeah.
really an outlet for me, as being good at work and having people appreciate and value me and getting purpose through my career.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of men in general kind of put a lot of value in their careers and their ability to produce money.
Yeah.
I think that's really normal. So you graduate high school, obviously, you have great stellar grades, you're still working full time. You go to college right off the bat?
Yes, I went to college right off the bat. I went to San Francisco State. So that was a
Okay.
very nice transition from more conservative
Hmm.
place that I grew up to San Francisco, a very liberal city, liberal college. It was a helpful transition
Yeah.
that I had.
Do you feel like you were able to make deeper and better meaningful connection with people there in San Francisco?
Yes, it was a lot better environment, better connections. I was able to more be myself once I moved there.
Okay, super cool. And I'm curious, so you notice like improvements in your life, obviously moving to San Francisco. At what point in your life did like your mental health kind of come to a head, right? Where you realized it was like, oh shoot, this needs work.
Yeah, I didn't realize my mental health was an issue, really. I think it was more the physical aspect, which was so interesting. It wasn't
Okay.
until probably sophomore year I just still was getting these migraines that
Hmm.
were, I wouldn't say they were worse. They were really pretty probably consistent from
Hmm.
sophomore, junior year of high school through sophomore year of college, these just consistent migraines.
Yeah.
They were headaches, it was fatigue, it was stomach aches, throwing up, all of that. Through all of that, there was anxiety, but I didn't
Hmm.
really realize what anxiety was. It was more
Gotcha.
just going to the doctor for what I thought were migraines and headaches,
Hmm.
and them referring me to a psychiatrist and they saying, all of this looks more like anxiety and stress. And this was 2012, so I didn't really know what anxiety was as much. I didn't
Yeah.
know what OCD was, and them saying, "Oh, that's what it is." And I was took a step back and I said, "Oh, now I understand." Okay, great. And they said, "What if you go to a therapist? Let's treat this with some medication." Doing all of that is then
Gotcha.
when I realized, "Oh, now all of this makes sense and I had more of a name for it."
Okay, that's super cool. So I'm curious, kind of, and this I think perfectly it segues into my next question, which is the hero's
Yep.
journey, right? So
Yep.
you get to this point where you're done with your body being in pain. You start meeting with these doctors.
Mhm.
Kind of explain to us what happened then.
Yeah, so I started meeting with a psychiatrist and really figuring out, okay, this is anxiety, this is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. These are some of the things that are triggering the migraines. And as soon as we started treating that, the migraines started dissipating. They started happening less frequently, less severely. Instead of all the time, it
Hmm.
was far less frequent. I started going to therapy, and that was helpful as well.
Yeah.
And starting to treat the stress and anxiety then helped with the migraines, and helping with the migraines helped with the anxiety. Those two went hand in hand. So that was really that turning point. That physician, I still remember her, that physician referring me to that psychiatrist was just that turning point that was so powerful and helpful. So
Yeah.
that psychiatrist, the therapy, the medication, the self-care, those things all together just kept building on top of each other and made me feel better and better, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, it's amazing. Are you still having like migraines and that kind of stuff at this point in your life?
I get them now, but maybe once a month, if that, and they're a lot less severe. I'm not just completely wiped out, having to
Oh,
be in
good.
bed all day. They're far less severe now.
Good. That's really good. So I'm curious, as you started to kind of back when you were with this therapist of yours, just talk therapist, right? Psychotherapy.
Yeah, yeah.
As you were starting to kind of uncover what anxiety was and how I guess how do I word this? How heavy, how deep was the anxiety in you, right? Like how much work did you have to do to actually get the anxiety out?
It's still there, but it's
Yeah.
been a lot of work to it's not now called Mr. Peanut. I call my anxiety Mr. Peanut and recognize my anxiety is not me, but
Okay.
instead it's something that's an emotion and a feeling that impacts me, and to separate myself from it has been a really big part of this journey, and recognizing I'm not my anxiety, but sometimes it feels like I am, and to say, "Oh, there's Mr. Peanut. He's being pesky. He's
Mhm.
overtaking me right now. Okay, let me talk to Mr. Peanut. Let me calm him down." I used to think he was helpful and necessary to be high performing, to do well academically, do well in my career. He served
Mhm.
his purpose, and now at a retirement party for him a number of years ago, and he's not helpful anymore. And then sometimes he comes back and says, "Oh, I need to help." Nope, Mr. Peanut, you're not being helpful. I need to set you aside right now.
Dude, I love that. That's awesome. So I'm curious too about some of the skills. So I
Mhm.
know setting Mr. Peanut to the side is a really good skill, but what were some of the other skills that you developed through the psychotherapy, through the self-help, through all the business coaching that you developed, and how did they evolve up to this point in your life?
Yeah, they've definitely evolved a lot. Part of it is physical. I used to hate sweating. I just hated sweating, and I've learned
Uh-huh.
to like that more. The Pilates,
Yeah.
I've been doing yoga, I walk a lot. So moving my body has been really helpful. Earlier today, it's been a lot of meetings today. So saying, "Hey, I'm going to go for a walk during my lunch break."
Hmm.
So moving my body has been helpful. Being mindful of my limits and having boundaries. So I do that as someone, it's been 7 years now, I'm running my own business. I
Hmm.
used to work from the moment I got up, and I would have my laptop in bed till I went to bed. And yes, there would be some breaks, but it was a lot.
Right.
And now being really clear, like, okay, I'm going to start at 9, I'm going to end at 4, I'm going to have lunch.
Hmm.
That's been really helpful, having those boundaries. And then
Hmm.
community, having people around me, my therapist, my spiritual director, a coach, having different people I can rely on, friends, family, building that community of support around me has been critical.
That's super cool. I'm curious about like your whole life because you're a really interesting person. And the building the community for you, what did that look like when you first started? Because I know that you said early on you struggled with community.
Mhm.
What did it kind of look like for you? What were some of those skills that you had to develop to start creating that community?
I am a huge introvert. People are often surprised because I do a lot of speaking engagements, whether it's podcasts or on stage or radio or TV, different
Hmm.
things. But for me, it's those one-on-ones I found really helpful. Finding people who are where I want to be 3, 5, 10 years from now, reaching out to them and having a moment of bravery. Okay, I'm going to be brave for 5 or 10 seconds while I'm
Hmm.
watching Netflix from the comfort of my house and say, "Hey, I want to connect. I'd love to learn more about you or your journey." And cultivating those relationships has been really helpful for me. So, not being afraid to reach out to people and develop those. And then knowing over time, too, those needs or those relationships might change. People who are originally really helpful, those people that are supportive for me may have to change over time, or my needs may be different over time. Probably
Hmm.
2.5 years ago, I went through a period of having a lot of existential anxiety. And I
Hmm.
said, you know what, my toolkit right now isn't enough. So I added a spiritual director who had a lot of experience helping people. And I said, this is going to be helpful here.
That's cool.
um, or a therapist. I went through a few therapists. Some of them were helpful. And then now I've been with my new therapist now not new, but 7 years now, because I found one that's been able to support me through this period
That's
based on
amazing.
where I am now. So I think it's finding people and then not being afraid to change those people around you as well when needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got two questions for you. The first is about your spiritual leader. So how important has spirituality been for you in your journey?
I grew up in a house that was not very religious or
Okay.
spiritual. My parents, I think, went to Catholic school for a year or two each when like they
Hmm.
were younger, but
Hmm.
it wasn't something we did a lot. And I went to youth group when I was younger for a year or two or three to be with friends, but not
Hmm.
really. So it hasn't been something that's been a lot of my life. And then going through this existential
Hmm.
crisis and anxiety, it's been something I've leaned on more and I've learned more a lot. It's just I don't know a lot of the language. Two of my sessions with my spiritual director, I just said, can you walk me through some of the different religions? I just don't know a lot about them. I took a
Yeah.
religion class in college. That's it. I really don't know a lot about them. So that's been really helpful, just being able to tap in and learn.
Hmm.
One of my biggest kind of skills or things that I enjoy, passions or hobbies is just learning. So learning about spirituality has been helpful.
Uh,
I'm also doing a certificate now in trauma and spirituality. So trauma is something I'm passionate about learning about
yeah.
and helping people with. But the spirituality part's also still new. So it's been helpful during these moments where I have anxiety to say, hey, can spirituality, can faith, can hope be something I can tap into
Yeah.
here? And the learning part's been something that's been helpful there.
That's super cool, man. I really like that. I didn't know there was a certificate. I mean, there's probably a certificate for everything out there, right?
Everything,
But
yeah.
but spirituality and trauma, is it
Yeah.
focused on using spirituality to work and process through trauma?
Exactly, exactly. And how do we balance the fact that there's trauma in a world where there's also possibly a God, or when people have faith, and how do we navigate those competing possible items? And when people
Yeah.
have trauma, how do we help them navigate that and have faith and hope?
Yeah, I know. So I'm curious then if, and I don't know how far you are in the practice.
I'm not. I've only attended orientation.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay, then I'll move on to the other question that I had for you was about kind of the evolving circle, right? The evolving social circle that you have, that everyone has in life, right? Because
Mhm.
I personally believe that every person that comes into your life has a purpose, right? Whether for you to help them to help you, to help each
Yep.
other, right? It, what are some of those points that you think are pretty common for most people when you realize, hey, this might be a good person for me? And on the flip
Yeah.
side, hey, when is it a good time to let this person go?
Oh gosh. What comes up is my therapist says this is like this person or this activity, an energy like booster. Do I feel good after this, or is this like an energy zapper? And that can be really helpful. Like when I think of Netflix or Hulu or something, I'm like, after I watch an hour, I feel boosted. This is great. But if I watch 3 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, I feel zapped. And
Yeah.
I think of that with some relationships with people. Some of them are really helpful in small doses or in general. Other people, I'm like, actually, the last few times we've hung out, this person's been a zapper and it's actually not being helpful anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Some people have served that purpose or that reason, or maybe this has evolved and this is someone where we're just connected on Instagram for now or LinkedIn, or
Yeah.
we don't need to hang out anymore. I like using that kind of zapper or booster to
Yeah.
help me evaluate my energy level with people or with
Yeah.
activities to weigh it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really powerful and true. I got two questions for you. I'm like a Hydra, right? You cut off one head and three more questions pop out. But um, so the first question I have for you is what are some of the healthy skills that you've used to distance yourself from these people? And then my second question for you is because, right, in order to take inventory of yourself, become self-aware so much so that you can say, wait, this zaps me. I'm curious about some of the skills that you use to practice that deep level of self-awareness. So yeah, so first question, how do you distance
Yeah.
yourself in a healthy way? And two, what are some of the skills that you've used to practice that deeper level of self-awareness?
Yeah. Um, One is directness. I think directness is really kind to
Mhm.
people. I think it's a gift. As a coach and just as a human, I'm really direct. I'm also a Virgo, so I think that's part of it. But I think being direct can be powerful. And so, you know what? I don't think this is working out. I'm gonna have to end this friendship or relationship, whatever it might be. I think that can be really powerful.
Mhm.
That's often a topic of my sessions with my therapists when it's like this client I don't want to work with are saying that was one of my weaknesses for a while, like cutting things off when they were not working out.
Mhm.
Because I'm a recovering perfectionist and recovering people pleaser, and I'd want to continue it.
Mhm.
Now I've learned that that directness is a gift to people instead of stringing them along. I am an expert at that now. So I think just being direct is really powerful.
Cool.
With the other piece, I think it's having someone or a space where you can connect and reflect. Oftentimes, we're just so busy going through our lives.
Mhm.
At work, we'll have a strategic planning meeting or somewhere to check in. In our own lives, we don't always have that.
Right.
So I think whether you do it with a therapist or a coach or your spiritual director or a mentor, having a space where you check in and reflect can be really powerful. I do that with my therapist on certain topics, my spiritual director on other topics. My partner and I even do that together. You're welcome to steal this if you're listening. But we have a house meeting. And sometimes it's literally 10 minutes, but we have some topics everywhere where we say, hey, we're going to check in on how we're doing. What events do we have coming up? Do we have Pilates scheduled for the week? What travel are we doing? And literally just checking in and reflecting can be a really powerful practice.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's so important. And that fosters community as well, right? Which is
Hmm.
also super important. Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate you sharing those skills
Of
and
course.
answering all of my random questions. That means a
Of
lot.
course. I love answering questions. I ask questions all day, so it's fun to be on the opposite end.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm happy. I love asking questions myself. So looking back, Kyle, at your life, right? All of the bullying you had to go
Hmm.
through, the people pleasing, the putting your identity through work and all of these things um and all the struggles that you had to go through, what can you appreciate about your life and everything that you've had to experience?
A lot of resilience. I think part of it is a great amount of resilience that I've built throughout this and
Mhm.
grit, as Angela Duckworth says, there's a huge amount of grit here. I think another piece is community. I've built a amazing community around me. It's a lot easier to go through stuff that comes up moving forward because I have that community. Um, I think the other thing, an ability to put myself first. Oftentimes, I was putting other people first. I've learned through this that I have to put myself first, as they say, I have to put my oxygen mask on before I help other people. And I've learned that through this process.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's awesome. And I think it speaks so much to just to see how much you're thriving, to how well you're doing, to the community you're building, that these hard parts really are so valuable.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comments that it kind of gaslights people, but I think it opens up the room for a good conversation is people will be like, "Man, I'm so depressed, I'm so anxious, I've got these problems." And I look at them, I'm like, "What a gift."
Yeah.
Right? What a gift that you've just been given that you get to experience this. And some
My
people are,
dad often says that when something shitty happens at work or with a client or something, he's like, well, at least this is a great story for your interview. He knows I'm a career coach. So he's like,
yeah,
you can use this in an interview that's coming up. This is a bullet for your resume. It's like, what's that gift in there? Of course, there are shitty moments, but there's that gift in there that you can pull out as
yeah,
well.
absolutely. And that's why I love that question about looking back because there's a gift in everything, right? Everything
Mhm.
was put into our path, people, experiences, thoughts, anything is to make us better
Mhm.
as human beings.
Mhm.
And yeah, just finding that gift, I think, and having that question in my mind, where's the gift in this? I just think helps
Mhm.
people develop a really beautiful perspective in life.
Agreed.
Yeah, super cool. So, Kyle, my last big question for you. So for those people just getting into the realm of mental health, those people just
Mhm,
saying, wow, I need some help, or oh my
mhm,
goodness, I didn't know that this was a problem. And they're just starting to look at
mhm.
direction for their life. What advice do you have for those people specifically?
Don't go at it alone. I think finding community is so powerful, and that can look different for everyone. I never encourage people to self-disclose a mental health condition before they're ready. Unless you're in an active crisis, it's important to get help immediately. However, finding that community can be really powerful and deciding how you want it to look, whether it's friends around you, whether it's your church, your synagogue, your mosque, finding people around you and developing that community is so powerful. So then you have people you can rely on, they can rely on you. It's so much easier to navigate this journey when you're not going it alone. So if there's one single tip I could give, it would be to find those people who can support, empower, uplift you when those times are difficult.
What a beautiful piece of advice. And it's so true. It's so true. Well, Kyle, my man, you made it through the gauntlet. You made it through the big five questions. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story and your vulnerabilities with us, your skills, and just the beauty of who you are as a human being, man.
Yes, thank you for having me. This has been lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, the people that are really interested in working with you at this point, the people that want to know more about you, the people that want to follow you, where can these people find you?
Yes, my website, caffeinatedkyle.com. I hang out on Instagram if you want to see us at Disneyland, Caffeinated Kyle, or on LinkedIn, Kyle Elliott with two L's and two T's.
Okay, cool. And I'm curious, the caffeinated Kyle, is that just the love of Starbucks? That
The love of Starbucks, and then I help people caffeinate their careers and their lives as well.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. It just helps you boost and stimulate. That's super cool. That's super cool. Well, awesome. Well, guys, that is Dr. Kyle Elliott in the flesh sharing his true story with you, his humanity, and his unique awesomeness. So, Kyle, thank you again, my last time. Thank you so, so much for coming on my show. I really, really appreciate your time.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for those that listen to this point, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to Kyle's amazing and wonderful story. His energy is vibrant and high. He's a super awesome guy. And we are all that much more fortunate to know him at this point. So, guys, again, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button or that follow button, depending on if you're on like YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Guys, if you loved the show like I did today, please go and make sure to leave a 5-star review or a wonderful comment. Let us know how awesome Kyle did. Guys, if you didn't like it, that's okay. Go and leave a 5-star comment anyways, and let us know what we can do to improve because we're always looking to grow as human beings. And that's the beauty of resilience and perseverance. So, anyway, either who, leave a 5-star review. That's the most important point there. Guys, if you're looking to come on the show, just so you know, I'm always looking for guests. I want you to know that no story is too big, no name is too small. If you do have a story, I want to share it all. You can contact me at chase@thewellnesscenter.life. That's my email, chase@thewellnesscenter.life. And if you want to know more about what I'm doing on my day to day basis, you can go to www.thewellnesscenter.life, where I use full body red light therapy to rejuvenate every single cell in your body, one session at a time. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We both hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on the flip side. Peace out.